What is up, everybody, and welcome to another ECS Season 8 team interview. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Rush from Complexity. Now, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about, but first, let's start off with you joining Complexity very recently. Obviously, there was a lot of hype. Jason Lake obviously tweeting out that he's going to be building this insane roster, and yourself and BlameF have been added. What was the kind of process like joining Complexity?
It wasn't like my initial choice to join them. I kind of like was gonna join a different team with Josh or Steele. I was gonna make a team with him, but after a while, I reached out to Complexity because I realized that might be a better option for me. And then they reached out back to me, and they kind of like our like goals aligned. But at the same time, they didn't have anyone really in mind like for an IGL yet. They didn't have anyone set, so I was kind of keeping my options open on both ends. And then at the end of the day, they told me that they got Ben. So I was like, man, I gotta go there. It's a good thing they got going there if they got BlameF, you know. So kind of no-brainer for me to join at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been super exciting seeing how the team's kind of gelling together and how you've been integrating. How do you feel you've kind of integrated into the team as a player? And has there been anything that's kind of changed in the way that you kind of play in a team?
I feel like I'm playing pretty much the same roles I have been for a long time. It's kind of like a mix of both though. Like for like a long time I was an entry fragger, and then for a long time I was kind of a support player. I'm kind of like a mix of both. Like I kind of entry on this team and also support. Like I'm the anchor on CT, and then on T side I'm more of like an edge guy, which is more I guess you could say support, but I'm definitely not like the guy just going in every time because I'm not in the pack on T side anymore. I'm more on the edge of the map. But I've done that before in Cloud9. I like that role a lot, so I think that, yeah, I'm pretty much playing like a mix of all the roles I've played in the past.
So I know you mentioned Blame, Ben. He has obviously joined the team newly with you. What's it kind of been like playing with him, not only because obviously Complexity has been historically a North American roster, right? What's it kind of like been for him joining as a European player?
I'm sure it's like a lot to take in, especially like the new environment he's in Texas. Everything's really bigger in Texas, and it's true because like even like the smallest drinks are like largest in Europe, you know, stuff like that. You get free refills, things that he doesn't expect to like experience. He's experiencing every day, I'm sure. And also the facilities are something he's never experienced either. I mean, even I haven't experienced the facilities they have, which is super nice. But I think that overall, I think he likes it a lot. I think that despite being in a new environment and being away from home, I think he's like taking it all in and enjoying it, like every minute of it. So
yeah, I mean, you briefly mentioned the facilities there. What has that been like? What do they kind of bring to you guys as a team, and how does your practice kind of differ with those facilities available?
I think the benefit of having the Complexity facilities is that you really don't have to worry about anything besides playing. Like everything is laid out for you. They have actually have like a center for like reaction time and stuff where you like if you want to take a break and go in the room and actually like play like reaction time simulations. I don't know what the word would be, maybe games, but like they help you stay sharp in the middle of the day, for example.
Oh, that's really cool.
And they have like all the staff members in the same area in the same building, like right next to you. So if you ever need anything, they're right there. They also have WhatsApp groups for us. If you ever need to reach out to them for something, they're right there for you. So like I said, basically you come there, you have a insane practice room with the best PCs, like Irma Miller chairs, best chairs. Like you just sit down and you just play basically, and just that's all you have to worry about, which is pretty nice.
That's really cool. So like, how does it kind of differ to like practice schedules you've had with past teams, and sort of how do you think that's impacting the team as a whole?
I mean, it's kind of gotten better and better for me over the years. Like with Optic, I was in a house with Mixwell, and it was just me and him pretty much like the whole time in the house. So it was me and him practicing next to each other, and everyone else was like at their house, and we were in like a mansion, so it's kind of like weird that only two of us lived in like a house that can house like 6 people. After that in Cloud9, I had my own. Well, actually, I lived in a house with Tarek and Stu for a while, and we practiced from there, so we weren't all together. And then going forward in the next iterations of Cloud9, we actually had our own apartments, and we commuted to work, which was a house, which is obviously different than a headquarters, but it's still like where everyone is at.
Yeah.
And we're all next to each other, which is nice, but it's not like actual like work environment. It's more just like a house. But then going forward with the Complexity, obviously it's way different because you're actually like when you're commuting to work, you feel like you're going to an actual like office, and like you're in this like practice room that's meant for practicing, and it's super nice. I'm glad how it's evolved over the years for me. We actually leave the house and you go to a place, you feel like you're there for a reason. You're there to do that one thing, whatever, maybe like practicing, working, you know. And that's what you're doing when we're going to the performance centers. We're there to play, and there's no other reason to do it. So we're going to use every minute of that time to the best of our abilities. And then we get home. I mean, even though work's done, it's still not done because you can look over like the scrims, we record it.
Yeah.
You can maybe, but it's more of like relaxed. Obviously, you can get a bite to eat, do whatever you want. You're not like on the time of like everyone else, because everyone else is there when you're at the performance center, right? So
after that win with the team, how did the team kind of change? Because obviously we saw a lot of roster moves, a lot of you guys sort of splitting off. What kind of happened there after that major win?
I mean, it's kind of like what you saw from the outside looking in. We kind of just imploded really ever when Stu left. I think that we kind of like, I think everyone, not anyone in particular, got a little complacent. Maybe not Stu actually. I think Stu, he's always been a grinder, and even after we got back from the major, he was playing FPL like right away, which is insane. Like we literally got back from the major, and that same day he was playing FPL, which I respect a lot. So he's like one of the most grindy teammates I've ever seen. But I think that majority of people got a little complacent probably. We were still having decent results, but I think the nail in the coffin was at WESG, we lost to Team 1 in the quarterfinals. That was an event that, we're in China. It's a long travel to get to China. We're there for like a week and a half, and we had a lot of high expectations to make the final for sure. And we went out in quarterfinals, which was a huge blow to us. And after that, that's kind of when things went downhill. And I think we also wanted to replace Skadoodle back then, but we couldn't find a suitable replacement. I think that was also a driving force behind Stu wanting to leave. I think that since we couldn't get a replacement for Tyler, I think Tyler was looking to retire too. It's kind of like a mix of both. And since we couldn't find like a replacement, Stu was like, I have this MFBR offer, I'm just gonna take it, that type of thing. So he just left, and I'm not like holding anything against him or anything like that. And then after that, it kind of just spiraled out of control because we tried to get a quick replacement for an IGL because Tarek wanted to stop calling. We got FNS. FNS wasn't like bad by any means, but it just wasn't what we needed.
Yeah.
So like he didn't work out either. So like after that, Tarek's like, I'm gone. So like oh shit, like we're really like falling apart. And we kind of just I think the best roster we had in that whole like time frame of like replacing players, people leaving, was when we had Flusha and Keo.
Yeah.
And Zelsis. I think that roster actually had a lot of potential. I thought that we were improving a lot. We had a decent showing at the major. We could have beat FaZe to make the top 8. I think it was really good, but I think in the end, things didn't align. Robin's mom died, which is a terrible thing to happen, especially when you're at a tournament. Like I couldn't imagine what he was going through. And he still fragged, which is incredible. So, and then past that, when we lost Robin, it kind of like fell apart once again. And the last roster we had was kind of like, once again, just kind of put together last minute because we wanted to split. Me and Tim were like, we're done. We're just gonna go our separate ways because we've been trying to make it work for a year now and it hasn't worked. So C9 kind of pushed us to make it work. So we did it, and I don't think it was awful, but definitely it wasn't the best roster we had. We weren't improving at a good rate, and we just obviously went out in the minor qualifier. So that was once again a nail in the coffin for us. Yeah,
of course. And I mean, you yourself, you were on Cloud9 for a pretty long period of time.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. And obviously some of that time was you were on the inactive roster, but what was kind of like choosing to leave Cloud9 and come onto Complexity? Was there anything kind of difficult as that, sort of from a sentimental standpoint?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I really gotta miss like the org itself and also the fans. Mainly I think the fans are pretty like diehard, even in like the bad part, even in the bad phases, I guess you could say. Like they were still behind me. I felt it was really nice for them to do that. And I think like I like living in LA, but at the end of the day, I don't really care where I live. I just want to win. So I'm like when Complexity gave me the offer, I was just like, I'm down. I'm gonna move, because when you're inactive on a roster, you're not just waiting around for like that opportunity to leave. Like sure, like Tens got benched and maybe I could have got back on the roster, but I'm actually glad I made this decision to make a fresh roster, because I think this is what's best for me, is making a fresh roster. Moving for this, like I'm really like giving it my all. Like my life is like divulged into this team, so or like really like zoned in on this team. So like, I really like I'm glad that I made this choice.
Well, yeah, and I'm super excited to see what you guys can kind of bring to the team. And obviously, you weren't on the roster last season from VCS, but Complexity did make it to the finals. What was the team's approach kind of been coming into season 8 of VCS to almost recreate that same success and make it to Texas this time?
We haven't been able to play, or we weren't able to play the first 2 weeks because they were still figuring out the roster in that time frame. And the last week we played, the third week, we got to the semis and we lost to EG, which is obviously like a hard team to beat. But the thing is like, we had a week and a half practice for EPL, and the travel day that we got back for EPL, we had to play one of our ECS matches. I
Yeah.
think that was versus ATK, which we won, thank God. And the day after that, we have to play versus EG, I think. So like it was kind of like hectic for us because we didn't really have much time to like look at our games from EPL to fix mistakes from it. So it was limited practice, but I still thought we did decent in our matches. Even in versus EG, we were up like I think 11-4 or 12-3, and we kind of like blew the first map, which kind of sucks. But I thought that we had a good showing. If we know how to close games, I think that game would have been a lot easier for us, and we could have gotten 3 maps, which sucks. But I think that was a learning process, and I think that we can still qualify if we just play how we've been playing in practice, really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've still got 2 opportunities to qualify this week of ECS and then the following week in week 5. And I just wanted to pick up on that, the Evil Genuises game that you mentioned. Obviously, that first map Overpass ended up finishing 16-13. You kind of alluded to the fact that you had some issues kind of closing it out. What were some of those issues you faced, and do you think that kind of impacted coming from that Overpass game onto the second map and kind of allowed them to get that 2-0?
I really thought that we just kind of like, I'm not saying we got like necessarily complacent, but we kind of thought, I think everyone thought that we were just going to win at that point because we had a really good CT side, like one of the best CT sides we've ever had in Overpass. Like we were all making plays, we were all like communicating well, and T side we kind of just like were like robots almost. Like we didn't like do the normal plays we did, like we weren't making like room for each other. We kind of just like were hoping that we were gonna just kill them and get into the site instead of like actually like making room for each other, like making plays on the sides of the maps and just like taking initiative. We didn't do any of that until it was too late, and then we lost, and we're like, oh man, like we didn't let it get in our heads though for the second map. Even though we got I think we got destroyed the second map. I don't remember the score exactly, but I think it wasn't close. But even then, we still like gave it our all, and it just kind of like didn't work out because the second map was harder than the first map. I think we needed to win the first map if we were gonna win that series. So we blew it in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously you said about your the travel schedules are very hectic, right? So it's quite difficult sometimes to be able to review everything, to be able to see your sort of strengths and weaknesses from games. But just touching on Evil Genuises, we've seen them really rise and become a consistent team, or a consistently dominant team recently, especially in NA. What do you kind of see in the qualities of that team that allows them to keep up that solid form?
I mean, besides having like everyone being like really skilled individually, it kind of reminds me of like the old Optic team we used to have back when we won E-League Season 2. Like I feel like everyone on that team was just super skilled individually, and that's why we were good, but we're also like all talked and we're all friends. It seems like everyone on that team is friends. I know it sounds like a dumb thing to say, but I think it's important to be like friends outside of game if you can, because then you're gonna respect each other in game more than you would if you were like enemies or not friends out of game. I think they're all friends. I think they all have raw individual skill, and I think they all talk a lot like about what they want to do. Like every round they're probably saying like, I'm gonna do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Everyone's like making plays and playing around it, and that's why they're good. And like I said, it just reminds me of Optic, and I think that's why they have the success because they're all on the same page and they're all skilled as fuck.
Coming back onto week 4 of ECS, you're going to be facing Riot Squad very shortly. By the time this interview goes out, I'm sure we'll know the score for it, but I still want to get your thoughts about how you're preparing to face them, because they are somewhat more of an unknown quantity compared to some of the other teams competing at ECS.
Yeah, I mean, that's a match that we should win, but we should also give it our all in terms of like preparation and like not like giving them the benefit of the doubt. We should make sure that we put in all the effort we can, because we play them in practice, and most of the times we beat them, but sometimes they take a map up us, so it's not like they're like an easy win. So definitely got to give it our all and play them like they're EG basically, and just give it our all. Having
won a major yourself on Cloud9 back at E-League, the E-League Boston Major, you obviously know what it takes to build a major winning team. What do you kind of think that you're going to be bringing to Complexity, and how do you think you're going to become one of the top tier teams that could potentially lift a major trophy in the future?
I think I bring a lot of experience. Like I think before, like even like maybe back when I was like E-League Season 2, like I wasn't like the most experienced. I was kind of just like that raw fragger. I think that these days I try to bring both of that, like the fragging, maybe not always sometimes because I'm more of a support, but and also the experience. I think that I can bring a lot to help like Owen or Obo mold into the player that we want him to be. I think he's still like super young. He's 16, and he's very like, this is like, like his impressionable years for Counter-Strike. Like things that he learns now, they're gonna stick with him for years. So I think that we just gotta make sure that we mold him to the right player, and I think I can help a lot with that. I think every day I'm trying to make sure he makes the right plays and stuff like that, and he's improving at a good rate, I think, and I'm happy with it. And I think that we have the pieces, if we're all on the same page and we're all confident, I think we have pieces that eventually could, crack into the top 8 of the major and make a good run.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just touching on Oba there, I remember meeting him at ECS Season 7. He's so humble. That's what kind of struck me. He seems really really chilled out as well, considering that was his first LAN ever performing on stage. What is it kind of like playing with him as a younger player? Obviously, you said there's sort of your ability to influence him, but how is he kind of soaking up that knowledge?
I think he hasn't really had a team like this yet where everyone's kind of like pretty experienced and like they really want to like, I'm not saying this previous teams didn't want to win, but I feel like this is the first roster that I feel like that was probably improving at a really good rate, and I think he's really motivated because of that, and he seems to be like talking a lot more and stuff like that. But I was thinking the one thing about Owen that I noticed most is that he seems like a match player. Like when match time comes around, he's like really zoned in. He plays even better than he does in practice, and it's pretty crazy to me that a 16-year-old would be like that. And that just shows me that he's just a competitor, and he's only gonna get better from here. And it really it shocked me a lot when I saw him play at EPL. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm super excited to see you guys play, and you guys at home, make sure you are tuned in for Complexities matches for week 4 of ECS. I'm so excited to see you guys to take on Riot Squad, and best of luck for the rest of the ECS season. Thank you so much for joining me, Will.
Thank you, appreciate it.